What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about a little bit more World Cup action. I did put out that first video about the World Cup qualifying stage and you guys seem to really like it. So we're back. We're going to do a bit of a recap of the qualifying stage and we're going to talk a bit about the group stage, and I'll do some predictions for that as well. Now, I did do some predictions for the qualifier stage, and we're going to see if I was smart or if I'm dumb. We're going to put a scoreboard for myself right above the webcam right here. And as we go through the groups, we'll find out how well I did. Now, kicking things off with Group A, this was a really interesting one. Now, on paper, I thought it was going to be pretty obvious with Japan and Ecuador making it out. But Portugal and Austria did a really good job fighting hard. And Japan actually had a hard time in this group. It doesn't look like it here. 3 matches, 3 wins. But if we look at this, 5-3... 5-3, and I guess 6-2 in the end. But these two were pretty close games against Ecuador and against Portugal. And, you know, Portugal almost advanced. If they had beaten Ecuador here, 1 game was the difference between Portugal advancing and Ecuador advancing. So a big congratulations to Ecuador for pulling it off. Really well played by Portugal. And, you know, even Austria putting up a fight in this extremely hard group, going 4-4 with Portugal, taking 3 games off of Ecuador, even a couple off of Japan. This is not the closest result, but it's still a good showing by Austria as far as level of play goes, right? Like, it's never fun to go out without a win, but this is an incredibly hard group, and Austria did pretty okay. Now, this one was an interesting one as well, Group B. I expected Poland to run away with this group. I expected Sweden to come out in 2nd place. Now, I was right about that, but what I was a little wrong about was how close the group was at the top. Now, Sweden and Poland, I expected Poland to be significantly stronger than Sweden, and they just kind of weren't. They both started with 6-2s, and then they tied with each other. The difference really came in week number 2. Poland got an 8-0 over Turkey as opposed to Sweden's 6-2, and that kind of made the difference there for 1st and 2nd place. But both of these two teams advancing. This was a really cool match to see at the end of the day. It's a little sad that this was the final match because this match really didn't matter that much. Both teams were already guaranteed to advance. But a great match between 2 really, really strong teams here. Going 4-4 in the end is really, really cool as well. So 2 groups in, I am 4-0 with my predictions. Now, I'm not going to be counting whether or not because I predicted 1st and 2nds. That's not going to count. All we're counting is if they advanced. So far, though, I'm 100% correct even on that metric. So that's cool. Let's change that. Going into Group C, I expected Australia to dominate the group. Australia dominated the group. My really big upset to me is just how badly things went for Ireland. Now, I was in contact with Ireland's manager. Pete Ons is a good friend of mine. Apparently, they did have their fair share of bad luck in these matches, but what really surprised me was how hard Argentina came out swinging. Now, Argentina had a really good performance last year, getting top 16, but I wasn't that impressed with them in the preseason. We played a friendly against them. We fielded essentially our B team. Well, not our B team, but like three of our best players didn't play. But I think they also kind of fielded a weaker side, so not really much to go on with that friendly match. And they came out swinging, beat Venezuela, dominated Ireland, and then barely lost 5-3 to Australia. So really a very solid performance here by the Argentinian side. And Ireland just really dropping off very hard in this group, struggling to find even a single point at the end there against Venezuela. Australia, though, coming in. They had a mission. They did so incredibly poorly last time out that they have something to prove, and their roster's incredibly strong. We talked about that a little bit. They've come out swinging, 9 points, very easy win for them, and 5-1 for me. Okay. Group D to me was the most interesting group in this entire thing. I gave a lot of credit to Malaysia. I expected Malaysia to advance from this group along with Germany. I thought it was going to come down to Germany versus the UK for the other spot. I did think Germany was probably going to come out first, which I was correct about. I was wrong about Malaysia and, you know, by extension, wrong about the UK. So things started off with Germany beating out the UK and Malaysia having a very strong result against Honduras. Then Malaysia held Germany to a draw. So at this point, I'm thinking, okay, you know what? Looking pretty good for my Malaysia-Germany pick. But then right when all of the marbles were being played for in week 3, the UK came out, they busted out the heavy artillery and just blew Malaysia up 6-2. So a really nice week 3 win there by the UK. We can see the team that they ended up using was, an incredibly strong team. Bwenty, Matt Maynard here, 3-0 so far. Taran, probably the most consistent UK player in major tournaments this year. Jack Clark's a friend of mine. He's a very, very good Lunadon player who didn't even bring Lunadon. That's, you know what? I've never seen Jack not play Lunadon. So kudos to Jack. They've got a whole host of really, really strong players on this team, and they showed it in that matchup against Malaysia, advancing out of the group in second place. Going into Group E, this was one of the most shocking things to me that almost happened. I expected France to run away with this group. France is an incredibly strong team with a regional champion from this season, and other really, really strong players, like incredibly strong regional performances. They have their own team in the meta that's just called French Swordfish, because no one else is good at using it, but all the Frenchies are really good at using it. I expected them to really blow this group out of the water. And you know what happened? They were one match away from elimination. That's what happened. They kicked things off with an 8-0 defeat to Mexico. Horrifying. They brought it back against New Zealand, and then they needed a draw while Denmark needed a win to advance. They barely squeaked out the draw. If any one of these matches had gone the other way, Denmark would have advanced over France. So also, shoutouts to Rayquaza Groudon winning here. Also, Xerneas in the lineup. Denmark with the creativity, man. Really, really cool. Although, we do see Hari here with a Ho-Oh team. The legendary Gruhu combination, as some would call it. If there's a single person on this video who got that reference, leave a comment. Because, I hope you get the reference. But if not, you know what? I'll put a link in the description for the reference. I promise it's worth your time. Regardless, a very close-fought group for France. They barely squeak it out, advancing in second place. That might come back to bite them, though. It means that their seeding for the group stage is not as good. We'll have to see what the groups are. I'm not going to lie. I'm coming in here. I want to be surprised. The only group I know about is our group because, I'm managing Switzerland. I kind of need to do a little bit of prep work. But I haven't really looked at the other groups yet because I want to be fresh with that, have fresh information. But yeah, I predicted these two teams to advance. That's not true at all. I'm just realizing I predicted New Zealand to advance over Mexico. Wow, yeah, I didn't think Mexico was going to advance. What's wrong with past me? Why didn't I think Mexico was going to advance? Well, tally it up. All right, that's an embarrassing moment for me, but I did predict France. There's that. Group F. Not the most interesting group at the end of the day. This kind of went the way it was supposed to go. Peru won all 3 games, went 9-0. Vietnam got second place. Belgium and Dominican Republic fought it out, but we're not quite able to make it happen. But it was a close-fought affair. Honestly, it really, really was. Now, if we look at this, Peru winning every single week, honestly, with incredible results. 7-1, 7-1, 6-2. That only losing 4 games in 3 matches is insane. That's a wildly good result, but it's not the best one. We'll get there soon. Now, the other side of things was a little bit interesting. So we saw Belgium get absolutely dominated by Peru, but then they absolutely dominated the Dominican Republic. They managed to equalize things, essentially. And at this point, all they actually needed against Vietnam, if I'm not mistaken, was a draw. Because at this point, they are 1 point ahead of Vietnam. So I think Belgium needed a draw, and they would have advanced on the tiebreakers against Vietnam. Unfortunately for Belgium, 1 match away again. Now, I predicted Peru and Belgium. I was 1 match away from being correct, and Belgium was a really hot take. So you know what? I don't even mind being wrong about this one. The Vietnamese side, we played against them last year. I like the Vietnamese side. I think they have a really cool logo with the shiny Rayquaza as well. At the end of the day, big shout-outs to them making it through. But wow, the Belgians can be really, really proud of themselves. It's not a super easy group, and they were 1 game away. Now let's talk about the single most impressive performance in a group stage that I think I have ever seen in any tournament. Hi, it's India. 7-1, 7-1, 8-0, 24 sets. India won 22 of them. That is absolutely insane. Insane. Now, I did predict India to win the group, but I mentioned that they were missing a couple of key players, especially Siddhartha Inc. I thought that was going to weaken the team a little bit. I thought they would still advance. I thought that this was going to be an easy enough group for them to see themselves through, but I thought that missing a couple key players would weaken them to the point where they might struggle a little bit. I have never been more wrong in my entire life. India just dominated so incredibly hard. There's no other way to put it. Like, if you're the people who lost the only sets for India, you gotta feel a bit bad. But one of them is Karthik, and Karthik went 4-1 for them last year. So, like, he's already done his job for India. He also ended up winning in week 3, so he ends up getting that back. Who ended up losing to Panama? Who's the shame? Varun. Oh, man. But regardless, I mean, what an incredible performance by India. Now, for this group, I did expect Panama to make it out in second place. Again, it was on tiebreakers. It was so close. The Panama team did win week 3 against Norway, which is what they needed to do, but they needed Norway to, they needed to beat Norway, I think, by one more game would have done it, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe they needed a 7-1. But regardless, it was a close-fought battle there by Panama. What a cool group, by the way. South Africa finally getting their first ever win. 3 teams on 3 points. Norway really just squeaking through. It's really quite hard to overstate how bad this result was for Panama. Like, South Africa were kind of expected to be the punching bags of the group. And at the end of the day, they were on the same number of points as 2 of the other teams. This win against Panama was huge, but Panama has got to be kicking themselves for that loss. Even just one more set win against South Africa would have seen them go through. So, you know, it's a tough one. It's a tough one for Panama. A lot of these teams just barely missing out. But Norway will advance. They do have a pretty interesting roster themselves, and it's going to be cool to see how they do in the group stage. Now, this group went kind of as expected in one way. Canada getting the 9 points. I think I said specifically, if Canada doesn't get 9 points, that should be regarded as a failure because they are such a strong team. Close matches. 5-3, 5-3, 6-2 is a little less close, but, you know, these are close matches. But Canada does do the job. They get their 9 points. Now, I didn't predict Costa Rica to advance. This was my bad. I predicted Indonesia because Indonesia did pretty well last season. Costa Rica's a scary team. They 8-0'd the Indonesian team that I expected to advance. So, at that point, I already gave up on Indonesia. I said, you know what? Costa Rica is better than I gave them credit for. And I gave them a fair bit of credit. I mentioned that they went 4-4 against China in a friendly. Like, I already thought they were pretty good. And after this result, I was like, nah, they're better. They're better than what I thought they were. They did lose to Canada in a close-fought match and then managed to defeat Egypt. Egypt with a pretty decent showing. It's their first year in the World Cup. They get a 5-3 against Canada, or a 3-5 against Canada, 3-5 against Costa Rica. These are close games, even though the Indonesian result didn't quite go their way. Close games there by Egypt. At the end of the day, I think they can be proud of this first performance, even though they unfortunately do end without a point. Well, now it's time for another one of my big losses as far as predictions went, but what a close group for second place again. Now, I predicted Brazil and Guatemala here. Now, Brazil, I was very correct. They won every single match. Guatemala, I was very wrong. They lost every single match. So, an unfortunate turn of events for Guatemala, who also, similar to India, have lost a couple of key players. Specifically, Cortex is not playing for them this season, which is a big loss. Cortex, arguably top 2 best players that Guatemala has access to. So really hurts for them. Brazil just dominant fashion though, breezing through 6-2, 6-2, 7-1. But let's talk about this Greece-Uruguay dealio. Uruguay and Greece both lose their week 1. Or sorry, no, Greece wins, Uruguay loses. So at this point, Greece is looking pretty good, right? Then Uruguay wins, Greece loses. But because of the margins, Uruguay is ahead by 1 set, or I guess 2 sets. As a result, they need a draw. Greece needs a win. We've heard this story about, I think, 2 other times already while scrolling through these groups. The team that needs the draw pulls off the draw. 1 match difference between Greece advancing and Uruguay advancing, but Uruguay managed to see it through, and this was a match that was fought the whole way through. I didn't follow some of the other ones as closely, so I don't know the order of the sets, but I checked on this one yesterday, and it was 3-3. Even through down to the last set, every single set mattered, and Uruguay and Greece, what a high-pressure situation. These are some cool teams. Alolan Executor with a Dialga here. We got Reshiram next to a Zacian. We got an Eternatus team. This is really cool. Lugia. I'm now realizing that most of these creative teams lost, but cool to see them, at least. So yeah, at the end of the day, a very interesting fight for second place, but Greece unable to see it through. Uruguay do advance. It's a very interesting group at the end of the day, but Yeah, it's tough for Greece, tough loss. Group J. This one, I predicted El Salvador and Taiwan. Now, I will say, I didn't really know that much about any of the teams except for Taiwan, and I predicted El Salvador purely off the basis of Latin American players tend to be very strong. It was close. Taiwan advanced through without a loss. They do end drawing against El Salvador, which, kind of proves the strength of the El Salvador side. Other than this one, Taiwan with a bit of a breezy matchup. 8-0 against Israel, 7-1 against Puerto Rico. But Puerto Rico, what ended up happening here, right? El Salvador, going into week 3, had 4 points. Puerto Rico had 3. El Salvador needed a draw. Puerto Rico needed a win. Puerto Rico beat them 8-0. That is a statement of intent. That is crazy. I don't know what happened here, but what an absolutely nutty performance there by the Puerto Rico side, not caring at all that they were the technical underdogs going into this set. Just absolute domination. Another Rayquaza. Why are there so many Rayquazas? This one lost, but there was one that won. I casted one that won. No, I wasn't casting, but there was one on stream that won. Anyway, cool teams once again. Look at some of these teams. The World Cup is so cool. You get so many random things that are awesome. Most of them are pretty meta, but even this pretty meta team, just kidding, the Grimmsnarl is now an Alolan Persian. There's a lot of really cool stuff that happens at this tournament. If you're not watching it live, you really should be watching live on the Victory Road stream every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Regardless, that is how Group J shakes out. My prediction of El Salvador is in fact wrong, but Puerto Rico, what an awesome team to be following. Really, really strong showings as well. Their wins, 6-2, 8-0, very, very strong, just losing to Taiwan. It's a heavy loss to Taiwan, but Taiwan's a really good team, so, it's a pretty solid first group stage here for Puerto Rico. Now, Group K is a great one. It feels vindicating to look at this group because a lot of people said I was very dumb and stupid for saying Finland was going to go out. They have Oliver Eskelin, they have Lauri Halonen, they have these people to lead the team. Now, my argument was that they have Oliver Eskelin and Lauri Halonen, but Oppo apparently not playing. I didn't realize that in the last video, but Oppo not playing this season. And the rest of the team, while they're decent players, are not at the same caliber as Chile's players, right? And even Philippines has a pretty solid all-around team. And Finland, unfortunately, started things off with a loss to Luxembourg, which I think is a really cool storyline. Whenever you have a country as small as Luxembourg, it's great when they can make their debut with a win. That's just cool. I like that. So, very happy for Luxembourg there. I predicted Chile in first and Philippines in second. Chile first, Philippines second. Boom, let's go. Based. Now, Philippines had an interesting one. They actually advanced without a loss, which is a rarity for these teams in second place. They got a draw against Chile, which is a very impressive result. Chile is a very strong team. They got a draw against Finland, which is a significantly less impressive result. I would call that a bit of a bad result, in fact. But then the 7-1 win against Luxembourg, a dominant showing there to end the group stage, and that's a really nice morale-boosting win as well, just to get the soldiers motivated and fired up for the group stage. So, great performance there by the Philippines to advance in second. Big shoutouts to Luxembourg, who managed to not only win against Finland, but also play an incredibly close game against Chile. 3-5 against a Chile team is really, really impressive. So, well done to the Luxembourg side as well for their debut. Finally, in Group L, I was correct once again. Netherlands in first, Hong Kong in second, just as predicted. My results were pretty good for this. I feel like a lot of these predictions are a little easy. This is the easy mode one, the qualifiers, because you have teams like Japan in here that are just gonna win. Brazil, it's just gonna win. So, we'll take it with a grain of salt. We won't call me the genius prediction king yet. We'll see how the group stage goes. I think that's a lot more interesting because a lot of these groups are gonna be crazy. We'll see them in a sec. But finally, Group L, Netherlands, dominant display. 5-3, 7-1, 6-2. Really, really solid performance. I expected Jamaica to put up a good fight, and that's exactly what they did. 3 set wins against Netherlands, 3 set wins against Bolivia. They didn't really do great against Hong Kong, but at this point they were mathematically eliminated already, so I think they probably just didn't care quite as much. But, the Jamaicans put up the fight that I expected them to, but I also didn't expect them to advance. So, a solid performance as far at the individual level. Unfortunately, just not quite there. Hong Kong looking simultaneously very strong and very not strong. The 7-1 over Jamaica is really good. 5-3 against Bolivia is a little bit tight, and then getting absolutely slapped by the Netherlands is a little bit yikes. So this makes me fear for Hong Kong going forward, but the most important thing right now is that they are represented in the group stage. I wanted to give a brief little shout out to some of the players who are undefeated, who have played all 3 weeks and won all 3 weeks. There's actually too many to actually cover, but I wanted to talk about some players of interest. Filip Idchuk, of course, top 4 player at the Liverpool Regional. A good friend of mine. He's also on he's going to be on our Apprentice Aegis team for VCL Season 2, so I wanted to give him a shout out. He had not the easiest opponents. He played Nicole Said, for example. So, big shout outs to Philip for getting it done. We got Tiago here, the finalist for seniors in NAIC. He is a very, very talented player as well. Really glad to see him doing well, 3-0. Matt Maynard, a good friend of mine, Buenti. He's been one of the most consistent players, I think, in the European scene. He's been consistently pretty good. Like, he hasn't had any really big outstanding performances. He hasn't cut any regionals, but he's there. He's at X and 2 every single regional, just not quite making it through. Like, he's very consistent, so it's very unsurprising to me to see him at 3-0, but I'm very, very happy to see him there. Maciek as well. We've got, wow, another Polish player here. We've got a lot of really, really, a lot of these teams that dominated having three O's, but Maciek, a very, very solid player as well. I was a teammate of Maciek's like a year and a half ago. I don't talk to him that much anymore, but I'm really glad to see him doing well, because when I played with him about a year and a half ago, my read on Maciek was that he was very good, but also very had a lot of untapped potential still, and I'm glad that I'm right. He's even better now than he was before. Like, he's doing very well. He qualified for Worlds, I think, so that'll be fun. See how he does there. Nikolai Dahl Fredriksson, I love that this man is 3-0 because he brought a Rayquaza in week 3. I'm not really sure what he brought in the other weeks, but that already, he should just be in rank 1 because one of these wins is with a Rayquaza. Let's be real. And the final person that I want to talk about is Nishant. Nishant, actually there's 2 more I want to talk about, but Nishant here, I believe he's a newcomer to Team India. He got top 16 at the New Jersey Regional, and I know he had a very disappointing NAIC. He went in with high hopes and kind of bombed the tournament, and it broke his mental a little bit. But Nishant is just such a wonderful guy and a very good player. I'm really glad to see him doing really well, like putting up numbers in this World Cup, because this is going to be great for his morale, and also will probably help to give him the confidence that he needs to bring that game to the next level, which is what India is going to need going forward against harder opposition. So it's really cool to see Nishant be one of the key factors on India's success, and I hope to see him continue. The final person that I wanted to give shoutouts to here is Dina Plasencia, because this is Egypt. Egypt, a team that has never played before, making their debut, and it's been a really tough one for them. They didn't win a single match, but Dina here doing their best and really getting 3 wins there is really, really impressive. Leading the way for that new team. Will hopefully be back next year, and hopefully Egypt can have a little bit more success going forward in 2023. All right, we're going to look at the group stages now. These are going to be fiery. They're going to be awesome. I'm going to be saying the words, wow, this group is insane, a whole bunch for this next segment. We're going to kick things off with group number 1, where we have defending champions, world champions, Spain. Now, we already saw some of these other teams in the last group stage. Poland doing pretty well, Taiwan doing really well. Uruguay, to me, is the odd man out here. Uruguay struggled to advance. They made it through in a bit of a struggle-bussy way. You can't look past Spain, though. Spain is Spain. Spain will win the group. Now, who's going to come second? Pengy prediction number 1, Spain. Pengy prediction number 2, Poland. I think Poland's got enough about them. They looked really, really good in the last group stage. They struggled a little bit against Sweden, but I think that speaks more to Sweden's strength than Poland's weakness, because Poland is a very scary team. I expect Poland to make it out in second place and be the second representatives in the playoffs. That is my expectation. Group 2. Oh, man. I feel like this one's kind of cut and dry, isn't it? Brazil and the United States are going to advance. That's the only smart thing to predict. Now, I will say, you should have probably expected to see the United States in the playoffs of the last season, and you did. They did make it to the top 8, but they struggled a little bit in the group stage, if I'm not mistaken. I think they had a bit of a tough time. I think they drew with Ireland, I think was the result that they had, but that was a little bit yikes. The U.S. is the U.S. There's just so many VGC players in this country to choose from. It is a smorgasbord for the managers to pick, and I expect to see the U.S. dominate these 2 teams. I'm not going to say they're going to dominate Brazil, but they'll dominate Sweden and Norway. Sweden's still pretty strong. I could see Sweden pulling off a bit of an upset, but the prediction here has to be Brazil and the United States. Group 3 is pretty interesting. Italy has to come in here. They're the runners-up from last year. You gotta say Italy's gonna win the group here. Italy is a very, very scary team. they should win this group. Now, the UK, they have more depth, I think, than Ecuador and Peru. Like, Ecuador and Peru both have really good... Actually, I guess Ecuador is the main top-heavy team. They have, like, Paul Ruiz in there. They have some incredibly good players. Peru is, you know, a perennial weird one, right? They did actually play last year against the UK in the first group stage, and I believe they won against the UK, but they both advanced. So, it's an interesting one. I struggle to rate Peru correctly. I feel like my brain is telling me that Peru should advance, but my gut is telling me that the UK is going to make it through. Like, the UK making it through that last group is an impressive feat. Germany and Malaysia are both really, really strong. It's going to be close. This one could go in a lot of different ways, right? I feel like Italy gets the win. Italy is top of the group. But, like, these three teams fighting for second, it's going to be really, really, really interesting to see how that goes, because it could be any of them, honestly. But I'm going to say the UK. For group number 4, the seeded team here is Thailand. They come in from the top 8. Thailand is a very, very strong team. They were a team that was kind of underappreciated, I think, last year. To go through their path, they advanced in first from a group with Austria, Ecuador, and Argentina in the qualifiers. That's a crazy hard group. We had Argentina, who made top 16 that year, and Ecuador, who have Paul Ruiz, who are also here. So, you know, Thailand already looked amazing after the qualifiers. Then they went into the group stage and advanced in first again over El Salvador, India, and Portugal. And then in the playoffs, they beat Malaysia and then finally lost to South Korea in top 8. So, while you might look at this and think to yourself, okay, it's pretty easy, India and, like, Costa Rica, based on how Costa Rica is playing, it's not. It's not that easy. Now, India, I think it would be journalistic malpractice. Am I a journalist now? Okay, sure, we'll just go with it. Just go with it. Shut up. Shut up. Go with it. We're going to say that it would be journalistic malpractice to not predict India after going 22-2 in the first group stage. So India has to be predicted, right? Now, the question here is, battle of the two countries that have almost the same flag, Costa Rica and Thailand. Thailand, like, my brain says Thailand, but I already got bitten once by not predicting Costa Rica, and I could see Costa Rica making it happen. I think for this one, I'm gonna go with Thailand, but I'm gonna say right out, like, 60% chance for Thailand, 40% chance for Costa Rica. There's a very real chance that Costa Rica upsets Thailand and makes it through. And both of these teams are capable of beating India, I think. Like, I think India probably beats them both, but I think both of them are capable of beating India. And if one of them gets a draw or even a win against India, this whole group is thrown into chaos. And then, like, Hong Kong is like, I don't expect Hong Kong to advance from this group, but, like, they're good enough to, like, maybe get a win somewhere in here. So this whole group has the potential to be either very clean or extremely messy. So it's going to be really, really interesting to watch. To me, I think this is the most interesting group that we have when you consider all 4 teams. We've got a couple other ones where it's, like, interesting 3 teams vying for one spot, but this is one that's, like, all around really, really cool. Group 5. Oh, Group 5. I feel like this is the easiest one in the world. Japan's going to win the group. Germany's going to come second. Maybe the other way around. Japan's had a couple of struggles, so I could see them getting second, but, like, Germany and Japan advance out of this group. I feel like this is probably the easiest group by far to predict. Philippines, strong team, very, very good performance for them to make it through. This is already better than they did last year. They were eliminated in the qualifier stage last time, so they can be happy. Philippines and the Singapore teams both have good players. They're just not strong enough to beat Japan and Germany. Like, you know, this is the kind of matches where, you know, if Philippines managed to go like 3-5 against Japan or Germany, I'd be like, all right, you know, I can see it. A little surprised that they took that many games, but I can see it. If I don't see them winning. I just don't see these two teams winning against Japan and Germany. Maybe one of them can get a draw, which will make things a little bit more messy, but I feel like Japan and Germany just advanced from Group 5. Wow, Group 6. Oh, this is like such a weird one, because if you give me this group 3 weeks ago, I tell you France is advancing. We've talked about how good France is on paper, but they're not winning. They're just not doing well enough. Like, they squeaked through, they did advance, but I cannot, in good conscience, predict France to advance from this group. Even Puerto Rico looks stronger than France. Like, Puerto Rico looks like a force to be reckoned with. Now, China Chinese VGC is in a place that is incredible right now. Zhejiang is doing amazing. Chongjun is an amazing player. They have so many good players on that team. China has to be predicted to advance, especially because some of the players that don't travel abroad, they're good, but we don't know about them, and as a result, you can't really scout them very well. So they have these players that are good, and also you have no info on them, which is really hard. All these players from France, so much information is available on these players to scout from and to figure out how they want to play. I think China has that inherent advantage as well, especially the earlier stages in the tournament when they haven't been forced to report results, right? So China, I think, advances pretty clearly. Not necessarily in first, but they will advance. Now, this is the hardest one. On paper, France is the best team here, but I have to, oh my god, this is tough, right? Like, Australia, on paper, is better than Puerto Rico, but the way Puerto Rico is playing. You know what, guys? I don't think I've done a hot take yet. Like, I don't think I've predicted a hot take in any of these groups. Why do you watch these videos if I'm not going to embarrass myself with a hot take? Puerto Rico advances from this group. You heard it here first. I'm going to say it. We're going to go with it. Please, guys, don't go 0-3. Don't make me look like a big dumb. Moving on, Group 7, the penultimate group. Another really interesting one here. Mexico doing way better than I thought they would. South Korea is a crazy strong team. Vietnam are the odd ones out here. I'm going to be honest. Vietnam are the odd ones out here. I don't see them advancing. This is a tough one for the Netherlands, but I think, Netherlands-Mexico is the deciding match in this group. Like, the winner of Netherlands versus Mexico will advance, and if they draw, it's going to be really, really crazy. I'm going to say South Korea and the Netherlands advance from Group 7. This is a tough one, though. Now, finally, we get to talk about the single most interesting group ever in any tournament ever, of course. Switzerland! Now, actually, this group is really cool. It's really, really cool. Obviously, I am a member and manager of the Swiss team. This is a very interesting group because, A, we played Argentina in top 16 last year. We did win. It was 4-3. We also played them in a friendly like 4 or 5 weeks ago, which we also won. So, I'm feeling pretty good about the Argentina matchup. Chile is a team that I consider beatable, but very hard. Chile is a crazy strong team. And then Canada is a team which is like half of Canada's team are my friends. So that's going to be really weird, but I think it gives us an inherent advantage potentially because I know how some of them will probably want to play, at least stylistically. They're not going to bring the teams that I know, obviously. It's an interesting one. And the coolest thing about this group is that I think every team is very similar in strength. This is maybe the hardest one to predict. Now, obviously, I'm a little bit biased, but for example, Eric Rios said that there is no chance that Switzerland can advance because Chile and Argentina will advance. Now, I think that's a weird thing to say, given that we are 2-0 against Argentina historically, but especially one of them being last month. You take Eric Rios' thing with a grain of salt, but, that is one prediction that I've been made aware of. Who do I predict? Obviously, I have to predict us. We are going to win. Who else, though? I have to give it to Canada, and the reason I have to give it to Canada is A, they're playing really well, B, their roster is really deep, they don't really have the super crazy heavy hitters, like, for example, Chile has Nemesis, right? Like, they have their leaders, like, we have me and Banfox, like the teams have leaders, and Canada, while they have like personality leaders and like, people who will help to lead the team in that regard, but they don't necessarily have superstar players who are expected to win all the time. But they have a roster of everyone being good. You don't know who they're going to field. You just know that every single person they could throw out is going to be a really good player. So they have more depth, I think, than any of the other teams here. So I feel like with the combination of the depth and also just how good at preparation Jean-Marc is as their manager, I think Canada advances with us. Now, bit of bias. Obviously, I am Swiss and a bunch of my friends are on Team Canada. It could go any way. I could see any two of these teams advancing. But my official prediction is Switzerland and Canada. And that does it for my predictions for the group stage of the Victory Road World Cup of VGC. Of course, if you would like to follow the action, the website is worldcupvgc.com. tons of information. There's like other really cool information here as well. We've got stats, we've got team stats, player stats, Pokemon stats. The Pokemon with the highest percentage win rate is Colossal, and also Snorlax is on the top 5 for reasons. All these cool things you can check out on worldcupvgc.com. And of course, streams are every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Usually I'm on one of those broadcasts as a commentator per week. So come on by. If you like hearing my sultry, dulcet tones, you can hear those on the Victory Road stream as well. If you guys like this video, drop a like, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, and if you guys give me enough positive reinforcement, maybe I'll do one more video on the World Cup of VGC in a couple of weeks after the group stage has concluded. We need to see, was I wrong? Was I right? Can I gloat about being the prediction king, or am I just a massive clown? We'll find out. But yes, it's going to be really, really fun the next 3 weeks. Hopefully we as Switzerland can come through, but as well, I'm just looking forward to seeing what kind of matches we see from these teams. We've seen some crazy, crazy Pokemon already taking some names, and I just love the World Cup. I love the World Cup so much, so check it out, twitch.tv/VictoryRoadVGC, and then, of course, the website as well. If you guys want more Pengy content, you can of course follow my Twitch as well. It's in the description below, as well as a link to the thing that I said was a reference earlier. I promise it's worth your time. I hope you guys have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night, whatever it is, wherever you are in the world, and I will see you guys next time.